here there's a recording, I'll be able to hear what I missed.
What's that?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Let's do that.
I think it might just be because there's only 2 people on Lance that you can't spotlight.
Oh, I'm figuring it must be.
Yeah, I think that's the issue.
Oh, okay. You're
running
reading
into-
my mind
I
now.
run into myself. You are correct. Yeah.
Okay. Can you pass out the yellow books, please?
Oh, thank you.
If you don't mind, I'm gonna sit over here because this chair is not there.
Yes.
One more.
You needed more?
No, that's fine. Yeah, maybe one more.
One second. Okay.
Thanks. Oh, that's very good.
I
Okay. So Matt, you can hear okay? Okay, very good. Turn your mic on one more time so we can hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
Yeah.
very good. Thank you.
Hello, hello, Lama.
Anytime you have any comments or questions, don't hesitate to speak right up because we may not be able to see you right away. So just speak right up.
Okay.
Okay. So we begin with short opening prayers for this evening on with the short refuge prayer. We'll recite twice in English, once in Tibet. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. In the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha most excellent, I take refuge until enlightenment is reached. By the merit of generosity and other good deeds, may I attain Buddhahood for the sake of all sentient beings. Sanghe chodam soki chodama Shanju badu dagni jasuchi Dagi jin soki pe sonamgi Drola penshi sanje dupasho. Next page. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. May all mother sentient beings, boundless as the sky, have happiness and the causes of happiness. May they be liberated from suffering and the causes of suffering. May they never be separated from the happiness that is free from sorrow. May they rest in equanimity, free from attachment and aversion. Manam kadanyam visam chantam she devadan deve yudan dempachuchi. Dunyadan dunagi yudan jawajuchi. Dunyame pe devadan midavajuchi. Neren jadan nidan jawe tangamla nepajuchi. Thank you.
Om Benza Sato Samaya Manupalaya Benza Sato Tenopa Jisha Jido Me Bawa Sutta Kayo Me Bawa Supa Kayo Me Bawa Anuratu me bhava sarva siddhi me prayatsa sarva karma sutsa me citta shriya guru ha 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 ho bhagavan sarva tathagata vajramane mansa vajrabhava mahasamaya sato Om Vajra Sato Samaya Manupalaya Vajra Sato Denopa Jishta Jeto Me Bhava Sudokhayo Me Bhava Subhakhayo Me Bhava Rakto Me Bhava Sarva Siddhi Me Prayatsa Sarva Grama Sutta Me Citta Shriya Kuru Ha 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 ho Bhagavan Sarva Tathagata Vedrama Me Matsa Vedrama Mahasamaya Sato Om Vajra Sato Samaya Manupalaya Vajra Sato Dinopa Disha Jito Me Bhava Sudokhayo Me Bhava Subhakhayo Me Bhava Anurato Me Bhava Sarva Siddhi Me Prayatsa Sarva Karma Sutta Me Citta Shriya Guru Ha 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 ho Bhagavan Sarva Tathagata Vajramane Mansa Vajrabhava Mahasamaya Sato Om Vajra Sato Samaya Manupalaya Vajra Sato Denopa Jisha Jeto Me Bhava Sudokhayo Me Bhava Subhakhayo Me Bhava Anurato Me Bhava Sarva Siddhi Me Prayatsa Sarva Karma Sutta Me Citta Shriya Guru Ha 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 ho Bhagavan Sarva Tathagata Vajramane Mansa Vajrabhava Mahasamaya Sato Lama Jeno, Lama Jeno, Jinjin Zave, Lama Jeno, Baden Lama, Gujuma Sota, Voka Jayanje, Tuje, Doya, Demota, Bellant, Tujang of the Jave, Jasaka, Rendera, Dembada, Medo, Jenjawan, Wumba, Gurjan, Dojan, Jabujano, so one does all do Jesus. Sinjala Shangudu Nanya Tata Soja Dini London, there was a Jay, Lamona Sinamda, Lamal. Nasi Shishin Socho Bambo Kamso Yundru So One Day, Gowa Tondu So Sinjalo, Jishin Nova Soge Jim, Masum Jimmy Javeto. Chebe Shin Hada De, Zavada Nika Dinja, Roa Jimze Rumboja, Nasim Jing on the So One Day, Junior Jang on the Sinjalo, Simdo Nichimen Namdan. Londe Chukoto Sinjalo. Navada Neve Sinja Angelo Chisando Sinja Love the So, Chulam Dondova Sinja Love the So, Lantubas over Sinja Love the Tuna Yishis on Chawara Sinja Love the So. Was a Saja Chimbo Joga Mudo Tova Sinja Love the So. Jawa Kundo Yanda Lama Don, the Mishinja Bala Longe, Sadalam Jay, and Derabdot. Dorje Change Gomba Nyordo Jo Sanjo Semne Ramboche Moje Bonam Jijreje Jebanyamba Mebai Kone Gonda Bewa Shon. Okay, now welcome back. Good evening, everyone, again. So I would like to say a few words about which we're discussing the mind train, whatever we call the different words, or sometimes in Tibetan Buddhism called the mind training, and sometimes Tibetan Buddhism called the Mahamudra meditation or Dzogpa Chembo meditation or mindfulness meditation, or sometimes they call insight meditation or vipassana meditations, or whatever call it is, different names, but it is about actually the mind training. Another simple words, training of the mind, or different word they choose to use, or emphasizing different ways. So which is we are early discussion about the mind training. I use in the mind training, or some people maybe would like to use Mahamudra or whatever, or Vipassana meditation, or insight meditation. So different word they use. So I like to share a few more words about that. And then I would like to really, everybody can, if you don't mind, because all the old practitioners, long time. So it's for, also I would like to hear from your thoughts about insight meditation or Vipassana meditation or Mahamudra meditation or Dzogpa Chempo meditations, So now the question is about earlier we discussed about all the different thoughts, which we call in Tibetan word the namtok, whether it is positive thought, whether it is negative thoughts, whether it is natural thought, whatever it is, which is we just try to, which I explained about the best teaching of Lord Jiti Sungur's Vajra songs, there must be some many methods to understanding about our true nature of the thoughts. It is different ways they have, which is wonderful. The Mahamudra point of view as a teaching of Mahamudra, like a Milarepa lineage, the Telopa lineage, they call the Mahamudra. They have very also wonderful methods about it, about the mind training, about them how to recognizing all the thoughts, how to deal with those things, And as well as, of course, I mentioned about Dzogpa Chembo tradition. And they have their way, also wonderful, skillful way of doing the methods, skillful way to do different way, which is very wonderful. As well as the kind of the Vipassana meditation, all the mindful meditation, and they have their own skillful way of how to understanding about our thoughts, how to deal with these positive or negative thoughts. Or each them has for my knowledge is very limited. Each them has a wonderful methods there, wonderful teachings, which is we all have to, of course, you all study, so I will recommend to study. Each of them is very, very important. Each has their own wonderful great masters. They actualize this way, it's very wonderful things to. So now I am speaking today is the basis of my own experience, which is very limited, which is I like to share some thoughts about the insight meditation, how to deal with thoughts, or vipassana meditation, whatever we call the mind trainings, So my limitation is I did try, each of their lineage has a wonderful teachings, Mahamudra says, do not follow the thoughts, for example. Do not judging the thoughts, and so forth. And Dzogchen Chamber says, and Mahamudra says so, actually the same pretty much. Do not accepting the thought, do not rejecting the thought. Philosophically, each of them makes sense. And practice point, my own training, which each has a wonderful, really insight realizations, very wonderful there. I did try, everything has wonderful things. And another way sometimes says, as a Sutrayana point of view, each thought you rise, you try to antidote for that particular thought, For example, for like a rises anger, you just try to be compassion or be patient, practice of patience. I think it's wonderful, That the question is how far we go and how far we understanding, how really it is affecting our inner realization, understanding better or better, it makes differences. So when I did meditation, when I doing my meditation, insight meditation or mind training, when the thoughts rises, for example, or usually we call of course, usually we easy to talk about one of the anger is much easy to understanding actually. So that's what we usually talk about that, for example. So the anger rises as a Milarepa's point of view, look at their nature without anything doing it. And it dissolves itself. That totally makes, I don't have no doubt, it makes sense. And Dzogchen Shenpo says, anger rises, recognize, do not accept, do not reject it. Just look at there. Leave it, it is. And it dissolves. And as the Sutrayana says, anger rises, you just be practice patience. Right? The antidote. Or practice compassion, develop compassion. There is no doubt it makes sense. It makes wonderful practices, So then my experience, this every try, each time as a mind training, or for me is the most powerful is the breathing. Breathing is recognizing all the thoughts. Of course, I'm talking about here is the breathing part of either way. I'm talking about rather the grosser breathing or subtle breathing. I'm talking about both actually here. Both can recognizing this our thoughts much pleasant way, very easy to understanding. If soon as I recognizing my thought or my breathing energy of I'm talking about energy of the breathing. Soon as I recognizing my energy of breathing, whether it is grosser level, whether it is subtle breathing, I can easily recognize that thoughts, really. I can see it, I can feel it. Sometimes my meditation is very good enough, mindfulness and all these things, I can still remain with that, the nature. As Mahamudra says, I don't have to follow there, I don't have to judge there, I don't have to hold there, but still remains the reality, nature there. Which is, I thought about, my understanding is the energy of breathing. It's really, really powerful. So therefore, energy of breathing is really necessary to practice it, The breathing energy and the energy of the emotion, the mind, it is, what I'm saying is very subtle level of connect each other, very much, very strong connected. That's why I believe this is when I recognizing the breathing, I can be with that, dissolve that energy, the emotion, relax there. I think that's I believe the energy of the breathing, subtle energy of the breathing and the subtle energy of the mind, which creates lots of thoughts, lots of different thoughts, past, present, future. I think it's to do with our breathings, how we control it, how we recognize it, how to say, be with that, relaxing with that, nature relaxing there. It is possible. The reason I say here, the breathing, if we rises our thought, the emotion, then we be with so we are kind of, how to say, the try to, whatever it is, we try to get rid of that emotion. We try to kind of second thought, try to get rid of that emotion. It didn't work for me really much, actually. It makes me more going on. It creates more the emotion which I already have it, that makes emotion more and more and more kind of solid, or creating distraction, disturbance in my heart and mind, subtle levels, So then I cannot really control it, cannot transform it, cannot do really well. It gets really more kind of challenges. So therefore, I found it's interesting. I personally believe in the breathing. I think there must be different ways to breathing is possible during those time. Different ways to their certain insight meditation possible. There are certain way, So it has to be kind of, I think so, really practicing. Through this different training of the breathing, it is very powerful technique. I believe this way, really. It's a powerful technique of the dealing with the whole emotions. Not just only emotions become a kind of, going, come down, not just that, become a easy way to recognize it and very gentle, but it's also quality of the very gentle way to recognize it. That is very important. We need it. Certain times in our meditation, we are not so kind to emotions ourselves. So we are trying to be forcing that emotion. So then it doesn't really work that way. We have to be kind to, so that in order to kind, it's not just like a thinking way. I'm not thinking or talking about the thinking way. I say I have to be in thinking. My mind, brain says, "Oh, I have to be this way." No, and then I lost everything. Soon as I have that, then I lost it. So I had to have this without the thinking way, through the energy of the breathing. So then it is really, really very gentle way. This is called, I call it a gentle way to be dealing with our insight meditation. And well, let me put this way, one of the I think so Telopa said, great yogi Telopa said in his Mahamudra teaching, of course you're all reading about it. Telopa said, according to my knowledge, what that really insight meditation, or the vipassana meditation, or the Mahamudra, what is his means? He said, Semla, Tibetan word says, Semla teso mena chaja chembo yin. Semla means mind, the nature of the mind. If we look at the mind, looking at the mind beyond any object and subject, free from object and subject, subjectless, free from all the conceptual thoughts, free from all the thoughts, this and that and this and that, Then Telopa says, Chaja Chimpai. That is called Mahamudra, or that is called the insight meditation. That is called the Vipassana meditation. Then next word, Telugu says again, Tela komshin dina lami chanchu top. Tela means that. That kind of method, when we're training our inside meditation, if we are habitual it, if we know our mind inside meditation totally free from all the thoughts, all the grasping, and all the how to say, ordinary mind, just not thoughts anymore, this and that, So then, Telugu said, Lami Chanchu top, then reach to the enlightenment, state Buddhahood. Pretty sure we all, every meditators to a glimpse of understanding, then depends on the maintaining part, So what I'm trying to emphasizing here to, of course, many of you already done that way, different methods, I would suggest you methods of the breathing. Really, when you try, when we see whatever emotions, when inside meditation, recognizing emotion right away, with the breathing, then relaxing, or then let it go, rather than as a Mahamudra or Dzogchen always says the same thing, no rejecting, no accepting, So, so therefore, I'm not trying to show something here, but I'm not about talking about myself too much, but as my intention is about to sharing my thoughts with you. So therefore, I'm becoming more interested about the breathing meditation, whatever it is. Each lineage and Tibetan Buddhism or non-Buddhism either, the breathing, they have skill where they do. I think they each has wonderful techniques there. I study Tibetan Buddhism, as you all know, but I study also Hinduism too. The Buddhist way they breathe, they practice different types of, particularly, which is yoga, they call the Patanjali yoga, has a lot of different types of breathing practices they have. I think I found very interesting, So that depends on how we, integrate to practice in our inner meditations, So I thought it's a lot of things to do with our way of our breathings, energies, where we train ourselves as a breathing practices, So that will be, for me, it's a very interesting. The reason is according to the philosophy or according to the whatever teachings, as I mentioned early last, teaching, the breathing is the last moment of the life, actually. And the beginning life starts from the first breathing. The last breathing is the life starting the breathing. And then as according to the Vajrayana point of view, they believe that too. Vajrayana, particularly teachings of the six Pardos teaching, six Pardos teachings. The Pardo says the last minute is the breathing. Through that breathing energy is our white energy and the red energy that moves through the breathing and then the claps together, then ends our next journey, to the next destination, the last breathing. So therefore, in the Vajrayana, or particularly Vajrayana, the end of our journey is breathing is a very, very, very special, very important. Of course, breathing has many techniques to do. Breathing does not mean only no, it has many internal breathings too, more subtle breathings there, which cannot hear it, the very subtle ones. So what I'm saying is, when insight meditation, working with insight, all our thoughts, what I'm trying to say is that through breathing, it helps me a lot, actually, really understanding better where it has to go and where it's supposed to be relax, dissolve itself, recognizing their natures, move more deeper levels, inside meditation. So that is my thoughts about the inside meditation, or which is I mentioned earlier, the basis of. But there's of course many. My limitation is very, very limited about the study point of view. Either practice, of course, which I study in the point of view. A couple of the books, as many of you already read, as I mentioned, the Telopas text, the Telopas Ganji Mahamudra, and then Mahamudra of the third Karmapa Rangchung Dorje. Yes, third Karmapa Rangchung Dorje Mahamudra. Supplication it's called the supplication of Mahamudra prayer, which is also very, very concise, very fit instructions. And then come up no, I'm not exactly sure which Karmapa is. Has also Mahamudra instruction about the one book. It has a concise one, the middle one, and what is it?
The ninth karma.
Right, ninth Karmapa.
Eliminating the darkness of ignorance.
Michudorji, right? Karmapa, yeah. Ninth one is Karmapa Michudorji. Karmapa ninth Karmapa wrote very good text about it, And then Mahamudra, as well as our, of course, Lord Jesus Songos there, couple there, the Gampopas there, And this, I read this one, the Chachin Daveo is the moonlight, how to say?
Moonlight of Mahamudra.
Or Moonlight of Mahamudra, which is Taputashinamja wrote. And another Mahamudra, Tekonani, what is called the essence of the clarifying natural state, which is Tashinamja.
I think it is.
Taputashinamja too. Those are the which my read book about it, which is of course these days pretty much available in English books too, translations. Those are I read Taputashinamja once couple times. Actually, it's a very small book size, but it's very very pit instruction, but it has to read very slowly and to understand it, this couple. So those are
Also, there's the Ganges Mahamudra by
right. Telopa. Ganges Mahamudra, Telopa. Then of course the songs of Milarepa's Mahamudra, couple of different songs there, which is I've been reading last few years with my small group. I have online groups. We are still reading about it. So those are the actually the originally Mahamudra texts. Somebody actually go back to the very ancient, but old. That's a very important text. And of course, the old ones and the new ones, it all has to be actually necessary to read. Sometimes we are just reading new ones and then we forgot the old ones, and where it is originally come from. So those are kind of, according to the study point of view, it is not so healthy to understand where the originally those teachings are. Actually, that's very, very, of course, just my thoughts to read and discussion. I had you guys have a discussion about it. That's very, very nice to read and discussion about it, So then this is my that is my personal, very every day try to meditate. And then I mentioned a couple these quotations of the Telopas and then the other ones which I always remember. So yes, those are very, very important for insight meditation. Then of course the mind training, all the texts of mind training originally, those are very wonderful, to be, of course, reading about it, study. So that's all my thoughts about today's. So, and now everybody else have thoughts to share.
Sure.
When I have a negative type thought that I don't like, I used to get upset about it and strengthen it by trying not to think about it. So now if I have a thought that I'm not fond of, what I do is I just kind of look at it and then maybe take some Vajrasattva, apply a little bit of an antidote, and then just gradually just like think of something else and not be attached to it. And then I'm not bothered by it.
I think so. As a practitioner of the Vajrayana, then the mantras, and then these are sometimes this. It is also working for me also too. Certain times emotions are strong, so things arises, and there's no ability, not sometimes challenges. So then the reciting mantra, it comes down, and then look at it again, try to meditate, let it go, things that will be wonderful way to be, I thought is for us, and then I don't know how it works for some other people, right? Those who are, like say for example, for meditator of the mindfulness meditation, So they are kind of not into so much in the mantra, right? They're into the kind of whatever, dealing with the other thoughts.
I never really knew what they did.
Right.
Two thoughts come to mind, Lama. Number one, it's amazing something as simple as breathing or getting sufficient sleep at night, how important these things are. They're simple things. We all have to breathe, but I think a lot of people, especially in the West, miss out on something so simple that can be so effective in bringing about clarity and peace. And what you had said earlier about when you have bad thoughts or anything like that, and the breathing, how that can help. I think of my 13-year-old son who likes to give his mother a hard time. And I think, well, I can't let him do that. I'm getting angry, but at the same time, I need to choose love. I don't want to make the situation worse. But you're right, just breathing and breathing and saying, you know, I don't need to respond necessarily. I can just kind of let him talk and let him have his fit and just, you know, be supportive, but at the same time not make it worse. So to me, the breathing, you're right, is very important. Keeping that equanimity in that situation and being calm, amazingly powerful.
Yeah, I think a lot of times if I recognize what I'll call a disturbance, whether that's anger, that I am applying the Om Mani Padme Hum, because that just kind of like courses through me. And it's to me like really accessible and familiar. And I think that helps. And sometimes, like, especially with anger, after it passes, then I recognize it and then just laugh at it like I was angry. And you know, see it as almost like comedy, like you got worked up about that. And you know, see the foolishness of it and try to figure out how did that arise from like almost like an incident to a crisis, even though it's really not like a full blown crisis, but that from a thought to where I'm really worked up about my neighbor's dog is still barking type of thing, rather than no, just let it bark. I can't do anything. Sometimes I can, you know, reach that part, and other times it just makes me mad. I find it anger arises in traffic situations because I didn't want to stop at that traffic light, but it turned red and now I'm here rather than going. So I think that's, you know, interesting. Of what, you know, things that I in the past might have got mad about don't bother me, but still traffic situations I find do, even though I was like thought I was calm before that. But it's just, I guess, still common enough in daily life, even though it's, you know, 1 out of 200 times I'm driving where that happens, but it's still, you know, instead every 200,000 time that I get a light. So, but I think it's interesting because I don't really think I'm not, you know, I know things arise, afflictive emotions arise, but I'm not sure that I'm looking at it the way, you know, like, oh, should I breathe? Should I do this? How do I get rid of it? Or why do I need to get rid of it? I'm not thinking about it. Maybe there's less and less times that I am.
Do you think that your peacefulness has habituated more than the anger habituated?
Yes. Yeah. I think through mantras, it's not, there's some of that
Through the
affliction
through
is
the
not
practices.
right, is not arising as often.
So you're seeing a change
Yes.
when you look back at it.
Yeah,
You
when I
know,
look
it's
back
not
at it,
obvious to you,
Yeah. Yeah.
but others might say, "Boy, David's really changed."
Yeah. He is not the nutcase he used to be. Yeah. Yeah, I think that is true that, you know, like I didn't set out to do mantras to counteract that, but I think it has. Things just don't bother me. I used to.
Well, would you like to say something?
I don't know. I don't know what to say. I mean, so it's like I used to practice time to time, but now I mostly just sit down in the morning and just do like the mindfulness or inside whatever shamatha. Like, so I think it makes me more peaceful and calm. But I also do sometimes when I do that breathing, a little bit breathing, like techniques, which helps to calm the mind. You know? So I don't do too much.
Mhm.
Well, let me say a few words, which since couple you were talking about the mantras. The Vajrayana, of course, just to remind you, Vajrayana mantra is actually the energy of the wind, the breathing energy. No, the whole go through this. The meaning of the empowerments is the body, the speech, the mind. The speech represents is the mantra. The essence of the mantra is actually the energy of the breathing. The breathing energy is the represent of the mantra. It comes that. So when we as a Vajrayana practitioner, we do mantra, it really, for us, we understand it helps to be controlling certain time, even to myself. You know, I say Ali many things. I can't do actually those many times, most of the time, not easy. But I can do the mantra very naturally comes. So it really, really helps because I believe that the energy of the mantra, the wind energy, is the essence of the mantra. So that's what it's supposed to, how the helping that the breathing energy into that connect with the how emotions are, how this and the thoughts are connected with this through that breathing practices, and the mantra practice is the same form of the practice of breathing. It's not nothing different.
Kate, would you like to say something?
Silence is a really wonderful tool. I've been spending a lot of time with Lama the last year or so traveling, and it's just it's interesting to watch across situations the way that we have these opportunities to work with our minds. there is something quite unique about spending time with someone who is really working on that in a certain kind of way. So it changes the environment and the atmosphere around someone like Lama. And so how we reach that place, I mean, there's an aspect of it which is just intellectualizing it, trying to understand it. And there are aspects of it which I think are kind of below the layer of conceptual understanding and ability to pick up. And you have to just start to experience them. I think I asked Mama one time if there was a moment where things shifted for him that it just kind of clicked. And I wonder, maybe you could say something about that now. I don't remember what your answer was. Or if it was more of a gradual unfolding process. There are highs and lows in your life related to your ability to work with the team.
Well, for me, it's actually the mantra, the energy of breathing, which I mentioned. It also to do with our lots of the energy of concentration, how we concentrate, how we can focus right away, Certain times we are breathing practice, we're not focused there, actually. Our breathing energy, the mind energy is two separate. And then the body energy is two, three separated. There are three of them. Body is somewhere there. The breathing is and then along is with that. The mind is somewhere else going on, So then the energy is not so much, strong or the powerful enough. When we breathing or whether we bring the mantra, really serious practicing, any mantra or the prayer, either at the same, it's a different forms there. But so when it goes together, then it's really, really powerful, So certain emotion, like we say, the thoughts rises, immediately, naturally comes that the mantra out, the prayer comes out, it brings calm right away at the moment, So therefore, the practice of breathing, it has to be breathing, body, breathing itself, the mind itself. The three has to go together actually to focus to the in the practice time. So likewise the mantra too, and likewise the prayer is supposed to be. I'm getting better, but sometimes I'm doing my prayers, but I'm somewhere thinking about something else. I can see that very, very, very good, and yes, I think, yeah.
My main practice is Vajrasattva, and when I do the sadhana, it's just about every day. It takes about an hour to an hour and a half, and I get so much vibration from the mantra and so forth that I always had a lot of tension and anxiety, but I have less because it like harmonizes the energies, the vibrations of the mantra, and it's like I feel like released from that tension and anxiety.
Can I make a comment? For myself, like Lama is talking about watching the breath and so on like that. And for me, that's very subtle and very practical, but it took me a long time to kind of work up to that. A more coarse way of approaching that kind of peacefulness was the Mantrayana, was the deity yoga. I was drawn to that, as I began to read about Dharma and so on like that. I was very interested in the different Buddhas and what did that mean and so on. And as I began to learn the mantras and everything, it became like a surgical knife that was cutting through my emotions, cutting through my misconceptions and so on like that. After time went on, I learned how to do the breathing exercises and so on, the breathing technique. And that became, it was much more subtle. It worked at a much more subtle level and so on, and became very practical. But for me, the point is, it took the deity yoga and the mantrayana to get to that point, because it was like that course way of approaching it and so on. So I can't deny that, the power of that and so on. To go, the other way was a little too intellectual for me, and what we're trying to do is to cut through the intellect, so doing the practice of the deity yoga was very effective. I made a couple notes, so I didn't forget what I want to talk about. And the deity yoga, and this was the reason why we pulled this particular weekend together, was to talk about deity yoga, because I know some people have said, well, deity yoga, I can't relate to it, or it's difficult for me, or something like that. And I appreciate that, but I want to be able to say that what deity yoga, the definition of deity yoga, is that it is the personification of energy. So taking Lama's example, energy being wind, energy being the space, that's what we're really trying to do, is to recognize that within ourselves. So by engaging in that kind of practice in the mantrayana, by using our wind, by using our voice and saying that over and over again, we align ourselves with that energy, with that. And if you do it enough, if you do 1 mile around, you're going to have about that much result. But if you can do 10 mile rounds or 20 mile rounds in a sitting, if you can spend an hour, hour and a half, 2 hours doing that, the result of that is space. Because my experience with it is, I can't talk anymore after I do that. And not because my voice has run out, but my intellect has been controlled. My monkey mind has been controlled. That the non-talk has been controlled. And so all I'm realizing is that space. At that point, everything else starts making more sense to me. That stuff that was purely intellectual, of going through the Mahamudra, going through the Dzogchen and so on like that, all begins to make sense, because I'm having that experience that I want to have. It's not going to be stable, but it gets more and more stable the more and more I'm able to do it. And the more and more I'm able to do it, the easier it becomes, and the less I need to do. And I could do the breathing and have the result. I could do 1 mile around and have the result, because I allowed myself to have a more profound experience through doing that. So to me, that's very practical. And as I say, I can't deny it. And I think that's part of what we're here to talk about, is the practicality of how this can help us in a real way, wherever we are in our development and so on, of being on the path and so on. So I don't think it's anything that needs to be overlooked or say, oh, well, that's not effective, because I think it is. It can be effective. It depends on you. It depends on where you're at. It's a choice.
Partially what I'm hearing from you that I think applies to a lot of us is that one of our hobbies as learning to be a Buddhist was reading books and reading about masters and deities. And in that evolutionary process of learning that, we've developed a devotion and an honor towards them that I think probably helps carry us through some of that emotional things to like, because we've learned to like honor those deities, we know that some of our bad habits and behavior would displease them. So I think that help acts as a counterbalance with the mantras.
Can I ask you a
To
question?
be, yeah.
Those people that you're talking about, those things that you read and everything, do you think of them as being outside of yourself?
Not anymore. At one time, I thought it was, like when you
But you've
read
come to
about, like,
recognize that that is all within yourself.
yeah, like at one time, like reading about Padma and Baba, it's like, wow.
Are you Padmasambhava?
I don't think so.
I mean, but what Padmasambhava represents, that energy, do you recognize that energy within yourself? Or Shenreze or
Yeah, I would
Vajrasattva or
say,
whatever.
I mean, my daily practice is Chenreze, so I would say I recognize more and can relate to that energy.
And to me, that's the gnosis.
But I think still with like guru yoga, thinking about Lord Jigten Sungha, that's, aspiring. And I think that from a Western, I'm addressing the Western point of mind to solving some of this like afflictive emotion.
I'm planning on practicing deity yoga until I realize the deity, until I actually realize the mind of the deity. It's gonna be a while, but that's what I plan on doing.
Thinking about the balance of some of the like preliminary type of practices that can be supportive of our daily yoga practice. So, for example, living simply and practicing like a renunciation type of mind. It's such a support, I think, because I don't know what you think, but as I encounter people who are doing these practices, it seems like the more they keep their mind free from a lot of complications, and the more they are willing to be generous and practice discipline, have compassion and devotion, and all of the things that are about getting outside of like me, then the deity has space. They just naturally arise that way. It's not like effortful.
Where do they arise?
Where? I didn't say anything about location.
So it arises within yourself.
There is no self.
Okay, so you're taking, okay.
We have to get to that place of selflessness, because as long as we're continuing to reify a sense of me or a sense of other, or then we're acting on a platform a little bit, and there's something to be learned, something to be taught, something to be, and there has to be a little bit of going beyond that conceptual sphere. I think.
Thank you.
In the Tibetan language, they drop the subject so often, and in English we say I and me all the time. Just think about it. Anytime we're speaking, how often we say I or me, and just like it's so different. And
A lot of Tibetan is in the passive voice, or what English would call the passive voice.
yeah.
Can you give an example in English of a phrase?
Oh, there are many yaks in Tibet. One of my first sentences, Manpo Yore, Bodla Mongo Yore. So is that it? I forget. Anyway, no, but if you use certain verbs, you always put them in the passive voice from the, so instead of the subject being the sentence, if it's there at all, it's like by me instead of just I did it. This was done by me. So it's different in Tibetan. I think it depends on what verb you have, whether you do that or not. So.
Yeah, you would say, I guess, in English, like yaks are there.
No, well, in English, yeah, of course, in English, you'd say something very similar. There are many yaks, there's no subject, and the yak is not the subject. Just say there are, it's like it is raining or something like that. There are sentences like that in English, but there's more of that stuff in Tibetan.
So do you think that the gradual path, we talk about the gradual path, is it a gradual path where the only direction is upward, moving forward, or is it a kind of thing where you move up, but then maybe you kind of come back a little bit, you kind of refine some things that you were developing or something, realizing you encounter that, then you go back again and you go further, but this time there's a greater degree of stability with that. So my point is, sometimes there's forward motion, sometimes there's reverting back and going back and purifying things, purifying your wisdom, your skillful means. But then when you go back, now you're able to go a little bit further than you could go before. Does that make sense?
Well, I can say from my own personal experience that whenever you think you have an insight, well, a lot of times it's just phony, but if it isn't phony, then you have it and then you lose it and then you get it back and then you lose it again until it finally stabilizes. It's just kind of a sine wave that kind of dies out.
Well, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah.
So yeah, at least that's been my experience. Everybody knows when this kind of sine wave that dies down.
Mm-hmm.
Lance, you had talked about suspending the intellect or going beyond the intellect, which is the purpose of the deity yoga practice. Is that so important because the job of our brains and our minds is to protect us, and the way it protects us is by driving us crazy with worry? Is that pretty much?
Yeah, I think so. And that's where the anxiety comes from and the emotions come from and so on like that. And it's our attachment to what we think is true. We give value to these things and it becomes our wrong views, and we hold on to that. And then that then festers and becomes our habitual tendencies. So we can do a lot of work, but if we haven't overcome the habitual tendencies, it's just going to come back to us again. So I think, the repetition of the practices, the repetition of being in groups like this and making yourself think and talk, I think is really important. Because, when I was a kid, I sat in the back of the classroom and I never engaged and I wasn't a very good student. But at some point, I realized, wow, I really got to assert myself. And I started sitting in the front row and I started, studying more and everything. And things became clearer much faster and so on like that. So I think it's like that. And knowing that you're in a community of people who appreciate that and you can do these things, it helps other people and it helps you at the same time. And isn't that what we're all about?
And now I'm going to be pondering no self for the rest of the night. So that's a good thing.
Hopefully that'll talk more about it this weekend.
Yes, Matthew.
Who's that?
Matthew.
Oh, Matt, it's been requested that maybe you have some thoughts that you'd like to share.
Yeah, I have a kind of a thought, but then a question about the thought for for Lama and for you, Lance, too, as well. And tell me if this makes sense or is a way of looking at deity yoga practice. Because I'm what Lance was describing before. I have a hard time over all these years still relating to the deities and to deity yoga practice, and I don't know. I just it doesn't come naturally to me, I guess. Um, but I was thinking about it the other day, and because I've had some experiences where we'll kind of through giving myself these kind of pointing out type of uh, instructions or something, where it can get a bit of a feel for maybe not the full experience, non-dual experience, but a bit of a feel for that bigger mind, like that vast kind of stillness beyond all of my suffering and everything. Um, and it's such a relief when I can experience that. Like it's very beautiful. It's just yeah, it's just yeah, it's really beautiful. And I wonder if a way of looking at the deity yoga practice would be kind of like the deities almost as like that that big mind, that dharmakaya, whatever we'd want to call it, kind of like reaching back out to this suffering samsaric being or something to kind of like help pull him back. Even though it's not it's illusionary, this the self or something, almost like someone who like remembers that they have a dream self in their suffering, and they're like, I don't really, maybe they don't really need to, you don't really need to save a dream self that's suffering or anything because it's not really real. But in a sense, is like through some form, we'll go back into the dream and like lend a hand and kind of like help someone who's like drowned in a river or something like that. I don't know if that makes sense, and if it does, if that's a way of looking at deity yoga practice or relating to a deity.
Well, I think in the deity yoga practice, the first part of the visualization, coming out of emptiness and so on. And then as you progress along and you're visualizing the seed syllable, it's going out to the Buddhas and the Bodhisattvas. And then from their hearts, that vibration, whatever, comes back into your heart, comes back into you. And then you send that out to all beings and so on. So I think it goes to what you were just saying, that you're setting up this relationship with the deities, and you slowly begin to realize that it's all within yourself, and that they are helping you through this exchange of blessings, of energy that you're giving to them. They bring it back to you through your realization, through your recognition.
Yeah, I guess the reason for even bringing it up at all is if I am going to practice it, like I need to find a way to make it emotionally resonant to me, the experience of the deity. Like it has to have like some kind of heart thing. It's because taking the forms just kind of as they are, or in my experience, and it's probably just because I don't have the karma for it, maybe or something, but uh, like that's what's missing. It doesn't have that like feel to me. Like it's feelingless almost. Like I don't, and normally when I relate to it, it's just kind of like an intellectual thing. I'm envisioning some things. I'm kind of going through the motions if I do it, but there's no like heart feeling to it. So that's kind of what I was exploring within myself, thinking about like how would I relate to something like this in a way that would feel. Because when I think of it in the way I was describing, like it like touches my heart kind of in a way. Because there's this part of me that does long to be like out of this constant suffering and like, this whole little game of my thoughts and ego and everything.
Well, maybe that suffering hasn't reached a threshold, a climax, where you say, I need to find something, I need to do something that is going to break through this. I've exhausted all the other possibilities. Now I've got to try this. So it's the charged situation that needs to be cut through.
I hear what you're saying, Matthew, too, about like the intellectualization of it can be hard to feel connected to. The felt sense. The felt sense is where the heart mind, right? So why not be creative with it? I mean, why not allow the natural experience of suffering that you're feeling be the catalyst that says, hey, I need a boatman to help get me out of this, and if there's a sense that that boatman has always been there for me, then that they could pull us out of the water in which we're drowning in.
That cathartic experience.
Yeah.
It cuts through,
Yeah.
Then you can see it happening, when it's very subtle, it's just an intellectualization. But when it actually works, when you see it actually working in the drama of the situation, that's when you become a believer, or a knower is a better word. You become a knower of it. You have the gnosis of it.
Yeah, Matthew, are you trying to do different deity yoga, or is there just one that you're focusing on?
Well, I don't practice deity yoga that much because it's doesn't really resonate with me, but I mean, I keep coming back to it and experimenting with it some, or Lance and I will, do some different deity yoga practices. So it's not something I'm like practicing daily, but I guess it'll be jumping around a little bit to different deities. The one I practice the most would be Green Tara, but yeah, I don't know. I mean, does everyone else like these kind of forms and everything and these sadhanas just kind of felt natural to you all? Like,
No, I
maybe
think
I
it's
don't have the karma for that. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's a process where you come across something that is aspirational, whether you like read a story about Pema Sambhava and go like, wow, he did all that. And then there's something about that you can grasp onto, even if it changes later.
I mean, things like that I can like with like Garchen Rinpoche. Like I just finished reading his biography too, and like with Garchen Rinpoche, like I can feel, like that I can feel in my heart.
Go with it.
Okay, I'm wondering if the problem is you have difficulty believing that the deities are real, and because you don't have trouble with that idea, you have trouble believing the practice does any good. I call that the homeopathy problem. People don't believe the remedies work, so they can't get anything out of them. But yeah, for people in that situation, I always recommend they do a guru yoga practice with a historical figure like Jigten Sumgong or Milarepa. Read the life of Milarepa, and if you feel inspired by that, do his practice. And the practice is aspirational. I want to achieve what Milarepa achieved. And by doing this practice, I'm making a connection with his life on an emotional level. And because Milarepa was real, then it's easier for you to accept that the practice is good. That's why I think Kenshin introduced the Guru Yoga practice that he teaches, because obviously Jigten Sumgong was a real person, and people in this tradition who know his biography have an easy way of relating with him. So
Achi's a historical figure also.
yeah, that's true. Hachi too, but I recommend you do some kind of guru yoga of a historical living guru, and you probably will find that easier to do than some sort of deity that you have a little bit of intellectual problem accepting, like Chenrezig or Tara or whatever.
And Garchen has sadhana for his.
Yeah, I practiced that before, the Guru Yoga Sadhana for Garchen Rinpoche.
Yeah.
And frankly, that's why we chose Achichoki Joma for this
Yeah.
weekend retreat because of the historical value of her and so on, and what she was able to do to clear away obstacles.
Bernie, that was tremendously helpful to me.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, really, I mean,
I know it's a big problem for a lot of Westerners is accepting the deities because they weren't raised with them.
Mhm.
You got to realize that half the saints in the Catholic Church are also mythical, but they didn't stop them from working.
St.
Like,
George.
I'm thinking of St. Christopher. Every year, when St. Christopher's feast day, the number of accidents would go down historically, even though they say today that St. Christopher never existed. You know, yeah, things can have an effect even if they aren't real in a historical sense, because actually, because nothing is real, I suppose. You know, everything is a construction of our thoughts. But if you find it easier with a living being like Achidroma or Chotidroma or Milarepa or Jigten Sumgan or any other historical figure like that, that's what I would recommend to somebody who has doubts about this kind of practice.
Will you hear that?
Yeah, here.
I hope,
You
I
can
hope so.
hear
I
it.
talked loud enough.
Oh yes, yes, I can hear. Yes, thank you, Bernie.
Okay, good, good.
I'm just sitting. I'm sitting. I'm reflecting on everything you're saying. Yes.
Lance, do you remember what you said many years ago when I asked you if these deities were real? You
What
said,
did I say?
you said they're as real as you are.
Oh, good. I said the right thing. Yes, you know, and the example I'm always fond of using is the diamond nature. You know, we talk about the Dorje and the diamond nature of the Dorje, the indestructible diamond nature, the wisdom. And here's the diamond. And what I've come to realize, what I talk about all the time, is the diamond has many facets, and all the different facets have names, and they're the different activities of these different deities that we learn about, you know, and it's all within ourselves. The diamond is our diamond heart, our indestructible heart. And as we clear away the obstacles, the blockages, then the light of the diamond begins to radiate. You know, we can sense it within ourselves, and we can have an effect on other beings and so on. So yeah, so and I think that's the somebody was talking about earlier. That's the quantum physics of it. You know, this quantum, you know, this quantum nature of things, that, you know, we are part of whatever this is, whether it's a vibration or whatever you want to call it. We're all part of it, and it's dynamic because it's a dualistic nature, it's a diamond nature, and we can work with that energy. We can recognize that energy. We'll wait a few more minutes. What'd you do? Put it in the freezer? Okay, it'll stay there. Curtis, you haven't said anything this evening. You have any comments?
Taking it, trying to not nap too much.
I mean, Curtis is very interesting because he has, you know, he very much like Hinduism, he very much like Christianity and so on, as well as Buddhism, and he brings it all together, and you know, he's able to see, you know, how it all tracks together and so on.
Try.
Okay.
True.
Well, I'll say this. The word icon is a big word for tying things together. The prohibition in the Old Testament against any sort of depiction representation of God was thorough. When Christianity got rolling, they liked thinking of Jesus and seeing it. And there was a lot of controversy about it. They finally said, okay, it's not an idol, it's an icon. We're not worshiping the depiction. Forget what the Old Testament says. We're not doing that. Don't get hung up and too strict about it. It's an icon. And it's so I think that's the way all the Eastern deities ultimately work. They work as methods to take you to a reality. It's not literally God being worshipped. It's just hard for Westerners to grasp that because they hear deity, they hear idol, and they're off in their Old Testament reactiveness because those are bugaboo words in Western culture for all of Abrahamic religion. But the idea of icon is how the West came to, at least in Christianity, came to be at peace with the idea of pictures of God, so to speak.
So, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay. I think the forms of the deities are sacred, and that when you meditate, like say you're meditating on Padmasambhava, his form, whether it's a statue, a picture, or if you meet him in a pure land or whatever, his form is sacred. And when you meditate on that, it rearranges your innards, your energies and stuff, I think.
If you can relate to it in the right way.
Yeah, well, Katie said, I don't think, Matt, you heard her, Matthew. Katie said that at first it doesn't come natural for Westerners because they're not used to it. Something to that effect. I don't know if put words in your mouth.
It didn't come naturally for me at first.
Mhm.
Well, I think like these statues here, this painting here, they're mnemonics. The word mnemonic, and it's a word or it's an object that speaks to a higher meaning. Without going through all the definition of it, you just look at the statue, and right away you feel a peacefulness. You feel a healing. If you know that that's Medicine Buddha, or that this is Maitreya. You have that affinity for that of the representation of the symbolism of that. It's a mnemonic of that. Well,
I don't know. It's a big question. It's a wonderful discussion. It's of course, it's not really easy. I myself, as brought up in this culture, Tibetan kind of Buddhist culture, Vajrayana believe in a society and family and monasteries. It was, for me, it wasn't not so difficult to kind of have no idea beginning time, I just practice, right? The truth part is that. Did yoga practice long time in the monastery, until I was 16. Before that, some study, but not much, I have faith in the devotions, no doubt. So I can see how difficult it is sometimes, but I would like to say, when we say this kind of form, the intellectually point of view, their form is not necessary to be form is like a human form. There's some other forms are possible, certain forms, very subtle level forms can be possible. Uh, our human forms are actually the grosser level of the form, which is we usually in philosophically we describe that way, you know.
Are you saying invisible?
Yeah,
Invisible
visible, yeah,
to our human eyes?
right.
But yet
It's
there's an energy
invisible,
there.
yeah,
But
the energy.
there's an energy there.
Yeah,
And if you try and quantify it or qualify it, conceptualize it,
yeah.
then we start forming emotions and wrong views and so on.
So one thing I really remember it reading about the, as Ali mentioned, the Milarepa's life story of the Milarepa and the Marpalosawas, their life story, how they connected each other. So of course you already read, pretty sure. I think you have to again to read and analyzing that. Milarepa was, I remember one time Milarepa was very having difficulty inner realization or inner practices, certain energy block in there, some energy, do not understanding what's happening, what's wrong with it, you know. So he doesn't know what to do now. So Milarepa keep practicing Guru Yoga a long time. And he's keep practicing Guru Yoga. And so then suddenly, even though historically Marpalosawa already passed away physically from, he passed away already. But Marpalosawa promised to Milarepa before he physically passed away, the death, he promised to Milarepa, I'm going to be always with you. I'm not going to be separate from you. The Milarepa have no idea what that means. You know, he's a passed away or already gone. Bodies no longer exist in physical form, you know. And Milarepa was to keep practicing Guru Yoga, you know. But somehow, whatever the energy wise, the Marpalosawa appears in front of him. So Milarepa was totally surprised at. So Milarepa was totally, really, how to say, complain to Marpalosawa. So I did this much prayer and such. You didn't show up. You know, how come this is such and such? And then Marpa says, I was always there. There's certain energy. Milarepa has a great devotion inside. So then somehow Milarepa see Marpalosawa in front of him and he can talk to direct like person to the person. So then Marpalosawa mentioned him. I told you already a long time, I'm not going to be separate from you. I'm always with you. So I know today I have to come and I talk to you because you have some issues in our meditations. So then Marpalosawa talked to him, Milarepa. I gave you already instruction one time, but I ask you do not open the text. You can open when you really need it. So then Marpalosawa again explained to Milarepa, now it's time you should open it. It's everything answer is there. So therefore, sometimes when you see Milarepa's picture, there's one, maybe when Milarepa sitting like that, there's one white things there actually. It's the text. There's some text there, which is Milarepa was keeping that long time. Miller Rebbe have no idea when it's supposed to be openness, So sometimes maybe reading something like that. Of course, you already read many other stories like that, other stories are very wonderful like that here too, but I don't remember all these other things. I really remember clear about the Miller Rebbe's story and the Miller's students, the Reshungpa's students, and even the Miller Rebbe already gone some times ago. So Meshungpa can actually sometimes experience it, and see it actually directly there. So that's a deity yoga's energy practices. I believe that. I have no idea. I'm still faith in the devotion. Okay? I'm just following that path. But I have through this, I have no idea. But the all about the energy, it's talking about actually how the subtle energy works, the body, the mantra, the energy of wind, energy of channel wind, and the windows are how it works, Also, so that is actually the I think so. Deity yoga all practices about. That I don't know. You help you or something, give you some ideas a little bit. So. So there's money. It's a real story. I mean, it's not like a, made up. So it's a really life happened. That's so, and yeah, and also I'm very believe it actually. So maybe I'm not too early to say, but I've been Avchi Mahakala practice continues. It's not to say, but it is sometimes nice to say. It's not about my ego or something sharing with you. Last 25 years, I've been doing that non-stop. If you ask me, do you really see Apchi or Mahakala? No. Okay. The answer could be no. But I do have a devotion and believe in that energy something. Yes. I strongly believe in that, actually. I'm believing sometimes person to person energy. I believe very much, But sometimes I believe more than person to the person, their energy much more than the real person's energy. I mean, that's like a little bit sounds like really religious or something different belief, right? So whatever it is, so it is. So I mean, good opportunity tomorrow. Give them actually empowerment something, That's my. Even there's a lot of things to be qualified in order to give those things, but I have been doing that. I'm pretty sure some energy is possible there. I don't know that how of those something. It's a wonderful to have many questions, It's always wonderful. So and try to back and forth, try to best way to explain.
Can you just practice shamatha and vipassana and then go into mahamudra from that?
Yes.
I'm just wondering if that might be suitable, something of that sort.
Right. Yeah. Shamatha meditation, to meditate in the Mahamudra. That's actually when you read about the Mahamudra teachings of the text, it requires that, right? It says that way, right? But then there's different masters' beliefs and sometimes. Sometimes they says you don't have to become a bhakti, you can go direct to insight meditations. That's also kind of other choices there. I think it depends on the students, right?
That makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's interesting that you say that because a few days ago I started reading Milarepa's biography again. Like a couple of days ago, I started rereading it. So it's very interesting that, yeah, that you all bring that up. Thank you.
Okay. No.
All right, well, I think then that's it for this evening. Thank you all very much. Thank you, Matt, for being there and asking questions. Everybody else here making comments and so on. So thank you. So we should do our dedication. So maybe pass these books out real quick, please.
Okay, please.
Mm. So if we can go to the bottom of page 28, which is the aspiration of bodhicitta, and then from there, just that one section, there's 4 lines. Then we go to the page 30, the dedication prayer by Lord Jigden Sumgon. So if we can recite, let's start by saying in English, or rather in Tibetan, we start at bottom of page 28. Shangju Samcho Rinpoche Mache Panam Che Gyorchi Kepanam Pa Me Paryam Gone Gondu Pelwa Sho. The next 4 lines. Bodhicitta, the excellent and precious mind. Where it is unborn, may it arise. Where it is born, may it not decline, but ever increase higher and higher. Glorious, holy, venerable, precious, kind root and lineage lamas. Divine assembly of yidams and assemblies of Buddhas, Bodhisattvas, Yogins, Yoginis, and Dakinis, going in the 10 directions. Please hear my prayer. May the virtues collected in the 3 times, myself and all sentient beings in samsara and nirvana, and the innate word of virtue, not result in the 8 worldly concerns, the 4 causes of samsara, or rebirth as a Shavaka or Pratyeka Buddha. May all mother sentient beings, especially those enemies who hate me and mine, obstructors to harm, misleading Maras, and the hordes of demons, experience happiness, be separated from suffering, and swiftly attain unsurpassed, perfect, complete, and precious Buddhahood. By the power of this vast root of virtue, may I benefit all beings through my body, speech, and mind. May the afflictions of desire, hatred, ignorance, arrogance, and jealousy not arise in my mind. May attachment to fame, reputation, wealth, honor, and concern for this life not arise for even a moment. May my mind stream be moistened by loving kindness, compassion, and bodhicitta, and through that may I become a spiritual master with good qualities equal to the infinity of space. May I gain the supreme attainment of Mahamudra in this very life. May the torment of suffering not arise even at the time of my death. May I not die with negative thoughts. May I not die confused by wrong view. May I not experience an untimely death. May I die joyfully and happily in the great luminosity of the mind as such and the pervading clarity of Dharmata. May I in any case gain the supreme attainment of Mahamudra at the time of death or in the bardo. Om, 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 Om. May my body, speech, and mind become inseparable with the body, speech, and mind of all the enlightened ones for the benefit of all sentient beings. Thank you all very much for coming. Thank you. It's wonderful to have you here, and hope that we see you again tomorrow and the next day. Thank you. You think
Bye-bye.
you'll be able to come up? You think you'll be able to come up, Matt?
Yeah, I'm planning on coming tomorrow and on Sunday.
Very good. Wonderful.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing you.
All right, good. All right,
Where's he coming from?
Virginia.
There's ice cream in the freezer, all scooped out, ready to go. If anybody wants it.
Okay. Let me see.
Okay.